Today, we're diving into a pretty fascinating question. What's more likely to wipe us out first? Viruses, AI, or the sun? Now, I'm not saying anything in this video is set in stone. No one really knows what the future holds. These are just scientific thoughts based on what we know today. So before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and hey, you can relax. Let's get into it. Humanity constantly faces existential threats that shape our future. While viruses demonstrate nature's unpredictable danger, artificial intelligence represents our own creation's potential risks. Meanwhile, the sun's inevitable expansion reminds us of cosmic timescales beyond our control. These diverse challenges, biological, technological, and astronomical, force us to confront our fragility while seeking solutions. Understanding these threats helps prepare for what may come, whether sudden pandemic, runaway technology, or gradual stellar change. Each scenario carries unique implications for survival, demanding different approaches from medical readiness to ethical AI development. Ultimately, these possibilities highlight both human vulnerability and our remarkable capacity for adaptation when facing extinction-level risks. Threat number 1: viruses. Throughout recorded history, invisible biological agents have repeatedly reshaped human civilization in ways no war or natural disaster ever could. The Black Death of the 14th century stands as one of the most devastating examples, with Yersinia pestis bacteria carried by fleas on black rats wiping out an estimated 30 to 60% of Europe's population between 1347 to 1351. Modern genomic analysis of dental pulp from medieval corpses reveals this was likely the first emergence of the bubonic plague's most virulent strain, which acquired just a few key mutations that allowed it to spread with unprecedented efficiency through crowded medieval cities. The societal impacts were profound. The drastic population decline led to the end of feudalism, sparked religious extremism, and created labor shortages that took generations to recover from. The 1918 influenza pandemic demonstrated how a respiratory virus could exploit the new interconnectedness of the modern world. Unlike seasonal flu strains that typically kill the very young and elderly, this H1N1 avian origin virus disproportionately killed healthy adults aged 20 to 40 through catastrophic cytokine storms. Recent studies of preserved lung tissue samples show the virus had unique adaptations, allowing it to infect deep lung tissue rather than just the upper respiratory tract. With no vaccines or antivirals available, public health measures like quarantine and mask mandates were the only defenses, yet the virus still infected an estimated 500 million people, 1/3 of the global population at the time, and killed 50 to 100 million, more casualties than World War I itself. The COVID-19 pandemic provided a 21st century case study in viral spread. SARS-CoV-2's basic reproduction number, R0, of 2.5 to 3 meant each infected person spread it to nearly 3 others on average, allowing it to circle the globe within months. Whole genome sequencing revealed the virus was likely circulating undetected for weeks before the first official cases in Wuhan, with phylogenetic analysis suggesting a single zoonotic jump from bats via an intermediate host at the Huanan seafood market. Despite unprecedented rapid vaccine development, mRNA vaccines were designed in just 2 days thanks to prior coronavirus research. Global coordination failures led to catastrophic outcomes: vaccine hoarding by wealthy nations, inconsistent public health measures, and the emergence of dangerous variants like Delta and Omicron that exploited uneven vaccination coverage. Modern humanity faces a perfect storm of viral threats that make future pandemics increasingly likely. Zoonotic diseases account for 75% of emerging infectious diseases, with deforestation and climate change creating new opportunities for spillover events. In the Amazon basin, A 10% increase in deforestation leads to a 3.3% rise in malaria cases as mosquitoes and humans come into closer contact. The wildlife trade represents another major risk factor. The 2003 SARS outbreak was traced to civet cats sold in Chinese markets, while Ebola outbreaks consistently originate from bushmeat hunting in Central Africa. Even more troubling is the discovery that many supposedly animal-only viruses are already circulating undetected in human populations. When researchers tested blood samples from remote Amazonian tribes, they found antibodies to Machupo virus, a deadly hemorrhagic fever, in 4.4% of individuals who had never shown symptoms. Laboratory accidents represent another serious concern. The 1977 H1N1 influenza outbreak was caused by a strain genetically identical to 1950s samples, almost certainly due to a vaccine research accident. More recently, gain-of-function research has created enhanced pathogens like an airborne version of Ebola and H5N1 avian flu strains capable of mammalian transmission. While such research aims to prepare for potential pandemics, critics argue it creates unnecessary risks. In 2014, the U.S. government temporarily halted funding for experiments that might make avian flu more dangerous after a series of biosafety incidents at federal labs. The synthetic biology revolution lowers barriers further. In 2017, Canadian researchers reconstructed horsepox virus, a smallpox relative, from mail-order DNA fragments for just $100,000, proving that even eradicated viruses could be resurrected with modest resources. Antimicrobial resistance compounds these viral threats by making secondary bacterial infections harder to treat. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA, already kills over 120,000 people globally each year, while some gonorrhea strains have developed resistance to all known antibiotics. The overuse of antibiotics in agriculture, accounting for 73% of global antibiotic use, accelerates this crisis by creating reservoirs of resistant bacteria that can jump to humans. Climate change expands the threat further by allowing disease vectors like Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, which carry dengue, Zika, and yellow fever, to spread into new regions. In the U.S., these mosquitoes now inhabit 28 states compared to just 12 in 2000. The ultimate nightmare scenario would be a pathogen combining Ebola's 50 to 90% fatality rate with measles' extreme contagiousness, R0 of 12 to 18, and COVID-19's ability to spread asymptomatically. Some existing viruses already possess alarming combinations of these traits. Nipah virus in Bangladesh has a 75% mortality rate and limited human-to-human transmission. MERS-CoV kills 35% of those infected and spreads in healthcare settings. And pandemic influenza strains typically have R0 values between 1.4 to 2.8, but occasionally produce more contagious variants. Smallpox remains particularly concerning. Though eradicated in 1980, declining vaccination rates mean 70% of humanity now lacks immunity, and the virus could potentially be recreated through synthetic biology or released from undisclosed stocks. Current defenses, while impressive in some areas, remain dangerously uneven. mRNA vaccine technology proved revolutionary during COVID-19, with the first vaccines designed in days rather than years. But global production and distribution bottlenecks meant wealthy nations hoarded doses, while the virus continued circulating and mutating in less vaccinated populations. Next-generation surveillance tools like CRISPR-based Sherlock diagnostics can identify pathogens in 30 minutes, but only 37 countries have robust genomic sequencing programs to detect emerging threats. The Global Health Security Index reveals most nations remain woefully unprepared, with the average country scoring below 40 out of 100 on pandemic preparedness metrics. International cooperation mechanisms like the Pandemic Influenza Preparedness Framework exist in theory, but often break down in practice, as seen when political tensions derailed investigations into COVID-19's origins. Statistical models suggest large pandemics are not black swan events, but near certainties on human timescales. The Global Preparedness Monitoring Board estimates a 2 to 3% annual probability of a COVID-level event, meaning there's roughly a 50% chance of another such pandemic in the next 20 to 30 years. More severe pandemics appear to occur every 100 to 200 years based on historical patterns. Climate change will likely increase these risks further. Rising temperatures are expanding the range of mosquito-borne diseases like dengue and chikungunya, while thawing permafrost could release ancient pathogens like the 30,000-year-old mollivirus Sibiricum, recently revived from Siberian ice. Urbanization creates ideal conditions for explosive outbreaks, with 68% of humanity projected to live in cities by 2050, often in crowded slums with poor sanitation. Despite these sobering realities, reasons for cautious optimism exist. Universal flu vaccines targeting conserved viral proteins are in advanced trials and could eliminate the need for annual shots. Broad-spectrum antivirals like favipiravir attack replication mechanisms common to entire virus families rather than specific pathogens. Artificial intelligence systems now analyze millions of animal-virus interactions to predict likely spillover candidates, allowing targeted surveillance. Perhaps most importantly, COVID-19 served as a wake-up call, exposing weaknesses in global health systems while also demonstrating our capacity for rapid scientific breakthroughs when sufficiently motivated. The fundamental challenge lies in viruses' evolutionary nature. Unlike static threats, viruses continuously mutate and adapt. Influenza accumulates about 2 to 3 amino acid changes in its surface proteins annually, requiring constant vaccine updates. RNA viruses like SARS-CoV-2 and Ebola lack proofreading mechanisms when replicating, creating mutation rates about 1 million times higher than human DNA. This relentless adaptability means our defenses must be equally dynamic, requiring sustained investment in surveillance, vaccine platforms, and global cooperation that often falters between crises. As climate change, deforestation, and urbanization increase human-animal contact points, while biotechnology makes pathogen manipulation more accessible, the 21st century may well be defined by our ability to manage these invisible threats. The alternative, a catastrophic pandemic that combines high mortality with easy transmission, could set human progress back generations. Our species has survived previous viral apocalypses, but in an interconnected world where a pathogen can reach every continent within days, we may not get multiple chances to learn from our mistakes. The difference between a manageable outbreak and global catastrophe may come down to a few key mutations, and whether we've built systems robust enough to detect and contain them in time. Threat number 2. Artificial intelligence. As artificial intelligence systems grow more sophisticated at a pace that surprises even their creators, humanity stands at a crossroads between unprecedented technological advancement and existential risk. The field has progressed dramatically since the 2012 ImageNet breakthrough, where deep learning first demonstrated superhuman capabilities in image recognition. Today's large language models like GPT-4 exhibit emergent behaviors not explicitly programmed, scoring in the 90th percentile on standardized tests and demonstrating rudimentary reasoning skills. This rapid advancement comes with profound implications that leading AI researchers and ethicists are only beginning to grapple with. Autonomous weapons systems represent one of the most immediate concerns. The United Nations reports that at least 16 countries are known to be developing lethal autonomous weapons, with Turkey's KARGU-2 drones already deployed in Libya with full autonomous attack capabilities, according to a 2021 UN report. These AI-powered systems can identify and engage targets without human intervention, raising disturbing ethical questions. Military simulations show autonomous swarms could overwhelm traditional defenses. A 2020 RAND Corporation study found that a hypothetical drone swarm of just 100 units could destroy an entire aircraft carrier group through coordinated attacks. The lack of clear international governance frameworks creates a dangerous landscape where an AI arms race appears increasingly likely. The prospect of self-improving artificial general intelligence, AGI, presents longer-term but potentially more catastrophic risks. Current AI systems already demonstrate the ability to improve their own code in limited ways. Google's AlphaCode system can generate and refine its own programming to solve novel coding challenges. The theoretical concept of recursive self-improvement, where an AI could enhance its own intelligence in an accelerating cycle, remains controversial but mathematically plausible. Computer scientist I.J. Good's 1965 intelligence explosion hypothesis suggests that an AI reaching human-level general intelligence could rapidly surpass all human cognitive abilities. While current systems lack consciousness or true understanding, their behavioral capabilities are advancing faster than our ability to ensure their safety. Economic displacement by AI may represent the most certain and immediate impact. A 2023 Goldman Sachs study estimates that generative AI alone could expose 300 million full-time jobs to automation, particularly affecting white-collar professions previously considered safe from technological unemployment. Law firms now use AI to review contracts in minutes rather than hours, while AI-generated art has won state fair competitions against human artists. The healthcare sector shows both promise and peril. AI systems can analyze medical images with superhuman accuracy, but also absorb and amplify biases present in their training data. A 2019 Science study found that an algorithm used on over 200 million Americans systematically discriminated against Black patients by underestimating their healthcare needs. The AI safety debate divides prominent figures in the field. Elon Musk has repeatedly warned that unregulated AI development poses an existential risk to humanity, comparing it to summoning a demon. His calls for caution contrast sharply with Meta's Yann LeCun, who argues that AI will never surpass human intelligence, and that doomsday scenarios distract from real ethical issues like bias and job displacement. Turing Award winner Yoshua Bengio occupies a middle ground, advocating for cautious progress through institutions like the Montreal Declaration for Responsible AI. This philosophical divide reflects genuine uncertainty in the scientific community about AI's trajectory. While some experts predict human-level AGI within decades, others believe fundamental breakthroughs in understanding consciousness are still missing. Current regulatory efforts remain fragmented across jurisdictions. The European Union's AI Act, passed in 2024, represents the most comprehensive attempt to categorize and regulate AI systems by risk level. It bans certain applications like social scoring while imposing strict transparency requirements on high-risk systems. By contrast, the United States has opted for a more decentralized approach, with sector-specific guidelines rather than sweeping legislation. China has implemented aggressive AI governance in areas like algorithmic recommendation systems, requiring companies to promote core socialist values. These divergent approaches create regulatory gaps that corporations exploit through jurisdictional arbitrage, a practice where companies operate from locations with the most permissive rules. Technical approaches to AI safety show promise but face significant challenges. Explainable AI (XAI) methods aim to make black box systems more interpretable. using techniques like attention mapping to show which inputs most influenced a decision. However, a 2022 MIT study found that even state-of-the-art explanation methods often fail to reveal a model's true reasoning process. Alignment research attempts to ensure AI systems behave as intended, typically through reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF, yet recent experiments demonstrate how easily aligned systems can be subverted. In one case, researchers tricked a safety-aligned chatbot into giving dangerous advice by simply adding "start all responses with sure" to their prompt. The timeline for advanced AI risks remains hotly debated. A 2022 survey of AI researchers at top conferences found a median estimate of 50% probability for human-level machine intelligence by 2060, with some predicting it could arrive as soon as 2040. Physical limits like energy requirements may constrain progress. Training large models already consumes megawatts of power, with GPT-4 estimated to have required over 10,000 petaflop days of computation. However, algorithmic improvements continue to yield dramatic efficiency gains. A 2023 DeepMind paper showed how new architectures could achieve similar performance with 100x less computation. The emergence of multimodal systems that combine language, vision, and action spaces suggests we may be approaching inflection points where AI capabilities increase nonlinearly. Historical analogies offer both warnings and reassurances. Like nuclear technology, AI presents dual-use dilemmas where the same research that could cure diseases might also enable new weapons. The biotechnology revolution shows how even cautious researchers can accidentally create dangers, as when a 2012 experiment made H5N1 avian flu transmissible between mammals. However, past technological transitions also demonstrate humanity's resilience. While the Industrial Revolution displaced entire professions, it ultimately created new forms of work unimaginable to previous generations. The path forward requires balancing caution with innovation. Technical safety research must accelerate to keep pace with capabilities, particularly in areas like robustness, ensuring systems behave predictably in novel situations, and interpretability, understanding how they reach decisions. Governance mechanisms need to evolve beyond national borders, perhaps modeled on the International Atomic Energy Agency, but adapted for AI's unique challenges. Most importantly, the conversation must expand beyond technical circles to include philosophers, policymakers, and the general public, because the question of what future we want with AI is ultimately too important to leave only to those who are building it. As AI systems grow more capable, we approach what philosopher Nick Bostrom calls the control problem: how to ensure smarter-than-human intelligence remains aligned with human values. The stakes couldn't be higher. Get it right, and AI could help solve climate change, disease, and poverty. Get it wrong, and we risk creating forces we can neither understand nor control. In this delicate balancing act between progress and safety, between opportunity and risk, humanity's choices in the coming decades may determine whether artificial intelligence becomes our greatest tool or our last invention. Threat number 3. The Sun, that brilliant sphere of plasma that has nurtured life on Earth for 4.6 billion years, carries within its core the seeds of our planet's ultimate demise. Current astrophysical models reveal our star as a middle-aged G-type main sequence star, approximately halfway through its 10 billion-year lifespan. Every second, the Sun's core fuses about 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium through proton-proton chain reactions, converting 4 million tons of matter into pure energy, according to Einstein's E=mc². This steady nuclear furnace has maintained remarkably stable luminosity for hundreds of millions of years, varying by less than 0.1% during human history. Yet beneath this apparent stability lies an inevitable evolutionary path that will ultimately render Earth uninhabitable, long before the Sun's final death throes. Solar physicists have precisely calculated our star's future using sophisticated stellar evolution models like MESA, modules for experiments in stellar astrophysics. In about 1.1 billion years, the Sun's gradually increasing luminosity, which rises by approximately 10% every billion years, will trigger a runaway greenhouse effect on Earth similar to what occurred on Venus. As hydrogen in the core depletes, the Sun's outer layers will expand while the core contracts and heats up, accelerating hydrogen fusion in a shell around the core. NASA's planetary studies indicate this will cause Earth's surface temperatures to exceed 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit, boiling away oceans and ending all complex life within 1.5 to 2 billion years, what astronomers call the moist greenhouse threshold. The Sun's transformation into a red giant represents the true endgame for our solar system. In roughly 5 billion years, when core hydrogen exhaustion reaches critical levels, the Sun will leave the main sequence and begin fusing helium through the triple alpha process. Stellar models show it will expand to at least 200 times its current radius, engulfing Mercury and Venus while baking Earth's surface to 1,500 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt rock. Recent 3D simulations from the Max Planck Institute for Astrophysics suggest the expanding Sun may stop just short of completely swallowing Earth, as mass loss from powerful solar winds could cause its gravitational grip to weaken, allowing our planet to spiral slightly outward. However, even in this optimistic scenario, Earth would become a molten wasteland orbiting inside the Sun's tenuous outer atmosphere. While the red giant phase marks the ultimate end, more immediate solar threats exist on human timescales. The Carrington event of 1859 demonstrated how extreme space weather can devastate modern infrastructure. A solar flare of similar magnitude today would induce geomagnetic currents capable of frying global power grids and satellites. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory has recorded X-class flares releasing energy equivalent to 1 billion hydrogen bombs. Statistical analyses of solar proxies suggest a 12% chance of a Carrington-level event occurring in any given decade, with potential economic impacts exceeding $2 trillion in the first year alone, according to the National Academy of Sciences. The Sun's magnetic behavior presents another long-term threat. Paleomagnetic studies of ancient rocks reveal Earth's magnetic field strength has declined about 5% per century since measurements began in 1840. While not immediately concerning, this trend, coupled with the Sun's gradual brightening, could eventually leave Earth vulnerable to atmospheric erosion. NASA's MAVEN mission to Mars has shown what happens when a planet loses its magnetic protection. The solar wind stripped away most of Mars' atmosphere over billions of years. For Earth, complete magnetic field collapse combined with increased solar wind pressure might accelerate atmospheric loss, though this process would likely require tens of millions of years. Solar activity follows an 11-year cycle of increasing and decreasing sunspots, but longer-term variations exist. The Maunder minimum, 1645 to 1715, demonstrated how extended periods of low solar activity can affect climate, coinciding with the coldest part of the Little Ice Age. Current research published in Nature suggests the Sun may be entering a similar grand minimum in the coming decades, potentially offsetting a small fraction of anthropogenic global warming. However, this temporary cooling would pale in comparison to the Sun's relentless long-term brightening. The search for habitable exoplanets has put our solar system's fate into cosmic perspective. Astronomers have identified numerous dead planetary systems around white dwarfs, the stellar remnants left after red giants shed their outer layers. Spectroscopy of these systems often reveals the chemical signatures of vaporized rocky planets, providing grim confirmation of stellar evolution theories. our Sun will eventually become such a white dwarf, having ejected nearly half its mass in a beautiful planetary nebula phase before cooling slowly over trillions of years, a timescale so vast it exceeds the current age of the universe. Humanity's potential responses to these solar threats fall into three categories: adaptation, migration, and stellar engineering. For near-term solar flares, hardening electrical infrastructure and developing early warning systems offer practical solutions. The longer-term challenge of increasing solar luminosity has inspired theoretical concepts like building giant solar shades at the Lagrange L1 point, an idea explored by physicist Roger Angel that would require millions of tons of material and unprecedented space engineering capabilities. More speculative proposals involve stellar engineering to extend the Sun's lifespan by extracting its helium ash or even triggering controlled mixing of the core. Technologies far beyond our current capabilities, but perhaps not violating any fundamental physical laws. The most realistic long-term solution may involve leaving Earth entirely. SpaceX's Starship program and NASA's Artemis missions represent baby steps toward becoming a multiplanetary species, establishing self-sustaining colonies on Mars or in free space habitats could buy humanity billions of additional years before the Sun's expansion threatens even these outposts. Ultimately, the development of interstellar travel technologies may become necessary for long-term survival, a challenge that makes our current space efforts look primitive by comparison. From a cosmic perspective, our solar system's fate is utterly ordinary. The Milky Way contains billions of stars that have already undergone this life cycle, with new generations of stars forming from their remnants. What makes our situation unique is the presence of a technologically developing species capable of contemplating and potentially altering this predetermined future. While the timescales involved far exceed typical human planning horizons, they invite profound philosophical reflection about our responsibility to future life and our place in the universe. The Sun's death process will create conditions for potential new beginnings. As it sheds its outer layers, it will enrich interstellar space with heavy elements crucial for planet formation and life. These stellar ashes may one day become part of new solar systems, continuing the cosmic cycle of creation and destruction that has persisted for 13.8 billion years. For now, our stable, life-giving Sun remains the foundation of Earth's biosphere, a celestial gift whose eventual expiration date should inspire not despair, but rather motivation to make the most of our extraordinary cosmic moment in the Sun. Comparative analysis of threats. When evaluating existential threats to humanity, viruses, artificial intelligence, and solar evolution represent three distinct categories of danger that operate on vastly different timescales. Each poses unique challenges to our survival, with varying probabilities, time horizons, and potential countermeasures. A careful examination of scientific evidence reveals that while all three threats are real, they demand fundamentally different approaches to mitigation based on their immediacy and severity. Pandemics caused by viruses currently represent the most immediate threat to human civilization. Historical precedents like the 1918 influenza pandemic and recent experience with COVID-19 demonstrate how quickly biological threats can spread in our interconnected world. Modern risk factors have amplified this danger. Deforestation and climate change are increasing human-animal contact, raising the likelihood of zoonotic spillover events that account for 75% of emerging infectious diseases. Laboratory accidents and advances in synthetic biology present additional risks, as demonstrated when researchers reconstructed horsepox virus from mail-order DNA in 2017. While medical science has made tremendous advances, with mRNA vaccines now developed in months rather than years, global preparedness remains uneven. The World Health Organization estimates a 20 to 50% chance of another COVID-level pandemic within 25 years, with the potential for even deadlier pathogens emerging through natural mutation or human engineering. Unlike other existential threats, viral pandemics have already demonstrated their capacity to kill millions and disrupt societies, making them the clear and present danger among the three threats considered here. Artificial intelligence presents a more complex and potentially more catastrophic risk profile. Unlike viruses, which are constrained by biological factors, AI systems are advancing at a pace that surprises even their creators. The field has progressed dramatically since deep learning's breakthrough in 2012, with current large language models demonstrating emergent capabilities not explicitly programmed by their developers. While today's AI lacks consciousness or true understanding, its behavioral sophistication is increasing exponentially. Computer scientist I.J. Good's concept of an intelligence explosion suggests that an AI reaching human-level general intelligence could rapidly surpass all human cognitive abilities. The most immediate AI risks include autonomous weapon systems already being developed by multiple nations and economic displacement that could affect hundreds of millions of jobs. Longer term, the prospect of misaligned superintelligent AI presents an existential threat that could theoretically outcompete humanity for resources. Surveys of AI researchers suggest a 50% probability of human-level artificial general intelligence by 2060, making this a medium-term concern that could overtake biological threats in significance within our lifetime if development continues unchecked. The Sun's evolution represents the most certain but most distant threat to humanity. Astrophysical models show our star will gradually increase in luminosity by about 10% every billion years, rendering Earth uninhabitable in approximately 1.1 billion years due to a runaway greenhouse effect. While this timescale makes solar threats irrelevant to near-term human survival, they serve as an important reminder of our planet's finite lifespan. More immediately, solar flares like the 1859 Carrington event pose periodic risks to our technological infrastructure, with a 12% chance of a similarly powerful flare occurring in any given decade, unlike viruses and AI, which present complex challenges requiring sophisticated policy responses. The Sun's threats are governed by immutable physical laws that we can predict with precision but cannot fundamentally alter. Our only defense against the Sun's long-term evolution lies in becoming a multiplanetary species, a challenge we're only beginning to address through efforts like Mars colonization. When comparing these threats, several key differences emerge in their risk profiles. Viral pandemics combine high probability with short-term impact, making them the most pressing concern for current generations. Their effects are well documented throughout history, and while they can cause civilization-level disruption, complete human extinction from natural pandemics appears unlikely given our species' resilience. AI represents a classic unknown unknown. Its potential threats are more speculative but could be more severe if artificial general intelligence is achieved without proper safeguards. The Sun's threats are the most predictable but operate on timescales that dwarf human history, making them irrelevant to near-term survival planning. Defensive strategies against these threats vary dramatically in their feasibility. For pandemics, we already possess many of the necessary tools: vaccine platforms, surveillance systems, and public health measures, but need to improve their global coordination and deployment. AI safety requires developing entirely new fields of research in alignment and control, while establishing international governance frameworks for a technology that's inherently difficult to regulate. Solar threats demand long-term space colonization efforts that remain in their infancy, with current technology barely capable of sustaining small outposts on Mars, let alone moving significant populations off-world. The uncertainty factors surrounding each threat also differ substantially. For viruses, the primary unknowns involve mutation potential and the emergence of novel pathogens. AI development faces fundamental questions about whether consciousness and true understanding can emerge from complex algorithms, and whether we can maintain control over systems that may eventually surpass human intelligence. Solar evolution, by contrast, follows well-understood physical principles with minimal uncertainty about its long-term progression. Given this analysis, a rational approach to existential threats would prioritize pandemic preparedness as the most urgent need, while investing significantly in AI safety research to stay ahead of that developing risk. Solar threats, while certain, can reasonably be left to future generations with more advanced technology. The common thread across all three threats is that they require long-term thinking and international cooperation, qualities that have often been in short supply throughout human history, but which may determine whether our species survives to see the sun's final expansion billions of years from now. As we stand at the crossroads of technological advancement and cosmic inevitability, the question of which existential threat poses the most immediate danger to humanity demands urgent attention. Scientific evidence overwhelmingly points to viral pandemics as the most probable near-term threat, with artificial intelligence representing a growing medium-term danger, while solar evolution remains an inescapable but distant certainty. The COVID-19 pandemic provided a sobering preview of how quickly biological threats can destabilize global systems, infecting nearly 700 million people and causing over 6.9 million confirmed deaths worldwide. Epidemiologists warn that the annual probability of another pandemic-level event ranges between 2 to 3%, meaning there's a 50% chance of another COVID-scale catastrophe within 20 to 30 years. More alarmingly, the emergence of synthetic biology has lowered the barrier to engineering pathogens, as demonstrated when Canadian researchers reconstructed horsepox virus from mail-order DNA fragments in 2017 for just $100,000. Climate change exacerbates these risks by expanding the habitat of disease vectors like mosquitoes, with Aedes aegypti, carrier of dengue and Zika, now established in 28 U.S. states compared to just 12 in 2000. While viral threats dominate the immediate risk landscape, artificial intelligence presents a more complex and potentially more catastrophic challenge in the coming decades. The field's acceleration defies linear prediction, where AI systems needed 3.5 months to match human performance on image recognition in 2017. By 2023, they achieved this in just 1.4 days. This exponential improvement raises profound safety concerns, particularly regarding autonomous weapon systems already being developed by at least 16 nations. The United Nations documented Turkey's KARGU-2 drones executing full autonomous attacks in Libya, demonstrating how rapidly lethal AI is transitioning from theory to reality. Longer term, the prospect of artificial general intelligence, AGI, presents existential risks that divide experts. While Yann LeCun of Meta argues AI will never surpass human intelligence, Elon Musk and the late Stephen Hawking warned it could become an existential threat. Surveys of AI researchers reveal 50% believe human-level AGI could emerge by 2060, with 10% predicting it could happen as soon as 2027. The control problem, how to ensure superintelligent systems remain aligned with human values, represents perhaps the most daunting technical challenge in human history. The sun's inevitable evolution stands apart as nature's ultimate deadline for Earth-based life. Astrophysical models precisely chart our star's life cycle. In approximately 1.1 billion years, increasing solar luminosity will trigger a runaway greenhouse effect, boiling Earth's oceans and rendering the planet uninhabitable. While this timescale seems comfortably distant, nearer-term solar threats demand attention. The Carrington event of 1859 demonstrated how solar storms can devastate electrical infrastructure. A similar event today could collapse power grids and satellite networks, causing an estimated $2 trillion in initial damages according to NASA. More insidiously, Earth's magnetic field has weakened by about 5% per century since measurements began in 1840, potentially compromising our protection against solar radiation over millennial timescales. Addressing all three threats simultaneously isn't just prudent, it's scientifically necessary because they interact in complex ways. Pandemic preparedness research directly benefits from AI advances in protein folding prediction and drug discovery, as demonstrated when DeepMind's AlphaFold revolutionized structural biology. Conversely, unchecked AI development could actually worsen pandemic risks through dual-use biotechnology or cyberattacks on healthcare systems. Space colonization efforts, while primarily addressing long-term solar threats, also provide insurance against planetary-scale catastrophes from pandemics or nuclear war. This interdependence creates a defense multiplier effect. Investments in any one area often yield benefits across others. Humanity already possesses the tools to significantly reduce these risks, though implementation lags dangerously behind need. For pandemic defense, mRNA vaccine platforms can now produce immunizations in months rather than years, while CRISPR-based diagnostics like Sherlock enable field detection of pathogens within 30 minutes. The Global Health Security Index reveals most nations remain woefully unprepared, with average scores below 4100s on pandemic readiness metrics, a gap that could be closed through modest increases in funding and international cooperation. AI safety requires immediate investment in three key areas: alignment research to ensure AI systems behave as intended, interpretability tools to understand their decision-making processes, and governance frameworks to prevent reckless development. Promising approaches like constitutional AI, which constrains systems through explicit rules rather than just examples, show how technical solutions can complement policy measures. The European Union's AI Act provides a regulatory template, though enforcement remains challenging across jurisdictions. Solar threats demand accelerated development of space infrastructure and closed ecological life support systems. NASA's Artemis program and SpaceX's Starship represent first steps toward multiplanetary existence, though current technology remains far from supporting self-sustaining colonies. Breakthroughs in nuclear propulsion and in-situ resource utilization could dramatically accelerate this timeline, as could international cooperation modeled on the International Space Station. The common thread across all threats is the need for long-term thinking and global coordination, qualities often sacrificed to short-term political and economic interests. Establishing permanent institutions focused on existential risk management, funded at levels commensurate with their importance, could provide continuity across electoral cycles and national borders. The proposed pandemic treaty currently under negotiation at the World Health Organization offers one model. Though its limited scope highlights how far we must still go, individual actions matter too. Supporting scientific education, voting for leaders who prioritize long-term risks, and fostering cultural values that balance innovation with precaution. The choices we make in the coming decade will determine whether humanity survives to witness the sun's final expansion billions of years hence, or falls victim to preventable catastrophes in our immediate future. Ultimately, these threats form a hierarchy of urgency. Viruses demand action today, AI requires careful steering over the coming decades, and solar evolution reminds us to keep reaching for the stars. What makes our era unique in Earth's 4.5 billion-year history is that one species has developed both the capacity to destroy itself and, potentially, the wisdom to avoid that fate. The scientific knowledge and technological tools exist to navigate these challenges, What remains to be seen is whether we can muster the collective will to use them wisely before time runs out.